right? Let's see. This
Mm-hmm.
one actually falls in the same category as the questions above here, because it's just a matter of putting the equation into standard form first, meaning we put everything on one side first, and then we just use factorization by grouping. So with
Mm-hmm.
all this being said, this one in particular, nothing major. We also just need to make sure that we put it into standard form. To do that, we have to just multiply inside. P times 5p, that's like 5p squared. P times 8 is like 8p. And then minus 4 equal to 0. And then, what do we have? Now you will be able to use factorization by grouping, as we said, where you have to multiply the value at the end and the value at the edge there. Get an answer, get its factors, and then have 4 factors or have 4 terms, and then factorize by grouping. With something like the next one, this is where you have to be very careful, because here you cannot say the first bracket is equal to 24 or the second bracket is equal to 24. The reason we cannot do that is because these two expressions multiply together. There is no saying that it will always be equal to 24 if each of them, or if one of them is a 24, you see. So that's why that logic does not work. The logic of equating each bracket equal to the value on the far right here is if this value is a 0. Because all we will be
Mm-hmm.
saying is something multiplied by something. The only way it will give us a 0 is if the first one is a 0 or if the second one is a 0. You see, that's why we do it like that, because 0 times anything is what gives you a 0. So they could both be a 0 or one of them could be a 0. That's how that works. With this one,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way of saying that anything times its times another thing gives a 24. It doesn't, that logic doesn't work, you see. So here we have to actually multiply out the brackets first and then see what we can do. So if you're seeing something like the p minus 7 here, p plus 3 here, and the 24. Working out something like this, right? We just have to be careful, because something like this, we know that, as we said, all we have to do is we have to remember that with math questions, right? 99.99% of the time, you always need to make sure that you simplify first before you do anything. You always need to make sure that you at least simplify before you do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So here you would just multiply out your bracket. You'd say the first value times this, second value times first value times each of them. When you're done, you go to the next one. You see, so p times p here gives us p squared. P times 3 here gives us 3p. Negative 7 times p gives us negative p, negative 7p. Negative 7 times the positive 3 here gives us negative 21, like that. So here you have p squared, negative 3, no, 3 minus 7 is going to give you a minus 4. The 24, the 24, you might as well bring it over. That's going to be negative 45. And then now, obviously here, if you want to factorize, we can think of factors of 45, that gives a 4. So let's see. 45 and 1, that does not give a 4. 2 cannot go in here. 3 and 15 does not give a 4. 4 cannot go in here. 5 and 9 give a 4. 6, no, it cannot go. 7 doesn't go. 8, 9, yeah. So these are all of them. To get a minus 4, you have to obviously say plus 9. No, a minus 9. Plus F9, F5. And these fortunately multiplied together, it will give you a negative 45, which is what should happen. So we'll be able to say one bracket multiplied by another. We need a negative 9 here and a positive 5. And then we have P and P. This is equal to 0. You see. And then obviously we know that this is just P minus 9 equal to 0, or P plus 5 equal to 0. And then the negative 9 goes over to the other side, it's a plus 9. 5 goes to the other side, it's a minus 5. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then that's how you get these kinds of questions. The only idea is to say we should not fall into the trap of thinking that each bracket we should make it equal to 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something very, very common that excuse me, that should not be done. Whew. Okay, the others, something like 23, right, is exactly the same
Mm-hmm.
as something like question 4. The only thing is you would need to, at least as we said, put everything on one side. And then same as 24, multiply in the
Mm-hmm.
brackets, put everything on one side. Something like 25. The one thing that we may be thinking is, can we not just square root both sides to get rid of the squares? Or should we just, let's say, multiply out the brackets and then see what we get? So the idea is, what you can actually do first off is do both. Or like as we're practicing now, right? We can even try and do both and see if they give us the same answer. Because the fortunate thing with anything school related is, if you can test out a theory without any severe consequences, then you might as well do it. Because in an exam, you can't. You see, you can't now test stuff out in an exam. But then while
Yeah.
you're practicing and while you're still studying and preparing, that's when you can still test out certain theories and see if they work out and all that. You see. So here, option number 1, here we said we're gonna just square root both sides. Square root here, square root here. The square cancels the square root. We have 2x minus 1, x plus 2. And then we have here everything we can put it on one side. 2x, no, the x's we can put them on one side actually. The numbers we can put them on the other side. X is a 3 here. If you wanna test out your answer, you can see if 3 is if you have a 3 here, right? It's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
2 times 3, which is 6. 6 minus 1 is a 5. 5 squared is 25. Here, 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 squared is also 25. So the 3 balances out. The only issue now is
Mm-hmm.
you'd need to be asking yourself, is 3 the only answer or the only possible answer? So for you to go around that question, you want to think to yourself, okay, fine, what would have happened if we, let's say, just multiplied out the brackets? You see, the first bracket
Mm-hmm.
was going to give us x minus 2x minus 1, and then another 2x minus 1. Here we're going to have x plus 2, and then x plus 2. And then here, 2x times 2x would have given us 4x squared. 2x times a negative would have given us negative 2x. And then here, another negative 2x. And then here, positive 1. 5 times 5 is like, x times x squared. X times 2 is like 2x. Another
Mm-hmm.
2x. And then a 4. You see. So all this being said, what do we need? We have now 4. We can take everything on one side. You see.
Mm-hmm.
4x squared minus this x squared would give us 3x squared. And then minus 2, that's a minus 4. And then if you minus another 2 and you minus another 2, that's going to give you minus 8. Because when you take these
Mm-hmm.
to the other side, they become minus. And then 1 here minus the 4, when you take it to the other side, it's going to give you minus 3. And then now you're back to these kinds of questions up here. You see, the ones that will need us to factorize by grouping, since we don't yet have a formula to work this out. So we said all you do is you take the value at the far edge here, the value at the far edge here, you multiply them. So after multiplying, what do? You basically do the following. You have to now say 3x squared times negative 3, that's like negative 9x squared. You see, now you want because of 9, that give us an 8. It's just 9 and 1. You see, so to get a
Mm-hmm.
minus 8, you have to say a minus 9 times the plus 1, right? Yeah. So with that being said, right, we need to split up this 9, this 9x squared, right? We have to split it up into two numbers that give us this value. And we said the 9x will work, then a minus x with a plus here. No, a plus x will work because it's like positive 1x, you see. And then we said the number on the far here, you drop it. That's a minus 3. The number here, you drop it. That's a plus 3. So this being done, you can now factorize by grouping. I mean, you can now simplify by grouping because remember this is equal to 0. So you can now group them each and take out a common factor. So here you can take out 3x as a common factor. You're gonna have x here minus 3.
Okay.
Here you can actually take out a 1 as a common factor because you at least have a bracket that will look like this. So you have x here and minus 3. So the one that is still there because 1 times 1 is still just a 1. So now, as we said, these look alike. You see. So that can be taken out as a common factor. 3x plus 1. So by doing that, you can see that all we are getting now is this bracket is going to give us the 3 that we already have. The other bracket is going to give us another answer that we did not have. You see, so the one goes over here, it's minus, divide by 3, you have the x is equal to negative a third. Then the 3 goes over, plus 3. So this being done, right? You can now see if the negative a third was an answer here, you can test it out. You see, negative a third times 2 is going to give you negative 2/3. Negative 2/3 minus 1 would have given us negative 5 over 3. No, negative 5 over 3. If you square that, it would have gotten us 25 over 9. On this side, negative a third plus 2 would have also given us, I think it would have also given us a 5 over 3. I don't have my calculator here. Yeah, it is. Might as well use it. Wait, is it here? Yeah, it is. So let's see. I'm just putting the values in the calculator. Negative a third. If you add a 2, you're going to get 5 over 3 also. And then if you square it, it balances out. So you can see this method here is what gives us all our actual answers. The first one gave us one answer. But the thing is, the only reason why the first one gave us one answer is because what we actually can try out is, for example, you see here, this is giving us two answers, right? With the first method, the thing is, since we have put something under a square root, remember, anytime you put something under a square root, there's always the thought of having an answer with plus or minus. You see? So you can try out that law, but only for one side. So if you square root each side here, the one side you can say plus or minus, right? And let's see what happens if we do it like that, you see? If we do it like that, you can now just have two answers. The first one is the one where you take it as a plus, you get this 3, right? The other one, let's take it as a minus and see what happens. We're gonna have 2x minus 1 here. Multiply the negative, it's gonna be negative x, negative 2. And then obviously, if you take everything from one side, you're gonna have 3x here. Negative, you take it over, you're gonna have negative 2 plus 1. This is just gonna give you a negative 1. And then do you see that the moment you divide by a 3, you will now at least still get 2 of your answers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason we showed it like this is because I wanted to show you that what's normal is if you do square root, it's easy to forget the plus or minus, to think that it's only something to be used when you have like a final answer, but that's not true. The plus and the minus is something to put all the time, as often as you can, because that's how you make sure you get like all your possible answers for whatever it is that you will be trying to work out. You see, so that's that for that question. Both answers or both ways of working it out work. So it's now obviously a matter of just then choosing which one works for you and which one you want to do in an exam. So
Yeah.
amongst these methods, which one would you say you prefer? The one where you put the plus and minus, or the one where you multiply out the brackets?
I think the plus and the minus looks a bit more.
Yeah, it looks much shorter as well. So
Yeah.
this is also important for when you for cases when you'll be working with like functions, right? And you're dealing with an equation that looks something like this. Let's say you have 2x minus 1 squared plus 3. And then they're minus 3, sorry. Or let's say minus 4. And then they're asking you to solve for x here, or get the x-intercept of this parabola in this format. In a situation like this, making this equal to 0, right? You would not need to multiply out the brackets here. You can just leave it alone the way it is. Take the 4 over, and then you can just divide by 2. Dividing by 2 here, you end up with the 2 here. And then the x minus 1 bracket with the square root, you can just square root it. With the square here, you can just square root it. But then remember to put plus or minus to your answer here. Plus or minus 2, x minus 1. So that you have two sets of answers, you see. You have a minus 2, and then you have the plus 2. And then you're gonna have here the minus goes over. You have a minus 1 as the answer. You have a positive 1 as the answer also, which would both be working. Yeah. So that was just to showcase that for that particular question.
Yeah.